help us maintain social distancing practices by staying in or within arm's length of your car. If you must exit your vehicle, please keep your mask on at all times. Tune your car radios into 89.7 FM to hear the live broadcast.
Come on, Valdosta, let's let this state know that we're about to win an election. So, thank you. Somebody told me this was a city of championships. This was a county of championships. Well, I want you all to know that on January 5th, the next voice you'll hear from is about to be your next U.S. Senator. And on January 5th, I'm going to be proud to be your next Public Service Commissioner. So Lowndes County, if you're ready to show Georgia that it takes more than just Atlanta to win an election, I want you all to celebrate with me because we have 2 United States Senators to elect. How good does it feel to say President-elect Biden? The last message from a very dear friend of mine who led this county for a long time, Mr. Andy Anderson, on the night after I won the primary, he said, Valdosta has your back. And he said to me, he said, Daniel, we're going to support you. And the first place I came when I decided to run for the Public Service Commission last year was Valdosta. And I want you all to know that since he's passed away, I wanted to keep my promise and come right back to Valdosta because you guys helped me get this far. In the state of Georgia, we pay the 5th highest electric rates in the country. We have the 8th highest utility rates. On average in the United States, 5% of a person's paycheck goes to their utility bill. But in Georgia, 18% of our paychecks go to paying a utility bill. In Georgia, too many of our children have been left behind because they lack access to wireless broadband and high-speed internet. But Valdosta, we know that Georgia's a big state. And we can't have success and prosperity in one region while leaving South Georgia behind. And we have an opportunity to change that narrative, not just for our children, not just for our communities, not just for our neighbors, but as Georgia sits in the center of the political universe and many people are questioning if Democrats are going to show back up from what we did on November 3rd, my question to you will be just to look around and to see how excited we are. Now, I should have said this earlier, and I've got 1 or 2 more minutes, and I'm going to let the man of the hour, who we are here for today, to show up for and to support. But to all of our military families, Trivia, she just basically took my thunder a little bit. But I carry this around, you can't see it, but my father was a United States Army Ranger. And I want to thank all the military families, their spouses, and their children for their service. So here's where I want to close, Valdosta. Here's what I want to say. Here's what I want to leave you with. Today is the beginning of a long road. And on January 5th, we're going to elect those 2 U.S. senators, and we're going to send me to be Georgia's first statewide Democrat in almost 20 years. But the real work begins on January the 6th. The real work begins the day after the runoff, because too many Georgians have been left behind and have waited this long. It's my esteemed opportunity to introduce someone who we all know. At least we've gotten to know him over the last few months. A gentleman whose integrity and whose family and his story outshines his opponent who is too scared to debate him. A gentleman whose wife has given her life and her time in the medical field while we are on the front line of a pandemic. Someone who's given up time and energy to fight for this state, to pass a civil rights bill that protects our interests, to expand health care to this part of the state. And a gentleman who I'm proud to say has become a dear friend of mine. It's my honor and my privilege to introduce your next U.S. Senator, John Ossoff. So much for coming out tonight. Please join me in giving another round of applause for your next Public Service Commissioner, Daniel Blackman. Valdosta, can you hear me all the way in the back? Valdosta, the polls are open. The polls are open, Valdosta. So I want you to say it with me now. Say vote. Say vote! Say vote! Valdosta, think about how far we've come. Think about how far the American South has come. Think about how far the state of Georgia has come. The most competitive battleground state in the country, hosting 2 United States Senate runoffs to determine control of the United States Senate. Georgia, we have the power to make history. We have the power to make history. So Valdosta, say it again with me now. Say vote. Say vote. Think about how far we've come. That your standard bearers in these historic runoffs are the young Jewish son of an immigrant mentored by John Lewis and a black preacher who holds Dr. King's pulpit at Ebenezer Baptist Church. Georgia, think about how far we've come. And I bring greetings from my friend and one of Georgia's 2 next United States Senators, a moral leader for our state and for our country. Give it up for Reverend Raphael WarNock, Valdosta. We have the power, Georgia. And we're running against the Bonnie and Clyde of corruption. How did we wind up with David and Kelly? How did we wind up with 2 United States senators
who, while they use their offices to enrich themselves, see fit to obstruct relief for working Georgians. How did we wind up with David and Kelly, Valdosta? I'll tell you this, retirement is coming for David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, Valdosta. And we have bigger and better things to talk about than David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. Maybe you're feeling right now in your heart, for the first time in 4 years, the same thing that I am. We almost forgot what this feels like. That's called hope, Lowndes County. That's called hope. Because Valdosta, Donald Trump is leaving. And Georgia sent Donald Trump packing. You did that, Valdosta. He may not know it yet, but Donald Trump is leaving. The fog is lifting. The fog is lifting. We can raise our eyes to the horizon again and dream about what's possible instead of just the disaster that we must prevent. We have the power, Georgia, to write the next chapter in American history. We have the power as Georgia voters to make history, to determine the course of history. We have the power as Georgians to do that. And we should be guided by a commitment to securing health and jobs and justice for the people, for all the people. Health, jobs, and justice for the people, Valdosta. Let's talk about health. In the midst of a pandemic that's taken more than 300,000 American lives, a virus that David Perdue, while he bought stock in manufacturers of vaccines and medical equipment, told the rest of us was no worse than the flu. We can beat this virus, Valdosta. We can empower doctors and scientists and fund Georgia's Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. We can make sure that every single American gets free testing and vaccines. We can beat this virus and get our daily lives back, Valdosta. Health for the people. Valdosta, do you believe like I do that health care is a human right and not just a privilege for those who can afford it or who live in the right zip code? Health care is a human right, Valdosta. I was just in Cuthbert, Georgia yesterday. They lost their hospital in October, in the middle of a pandemic. One of 9 rural hospitals to close in 10 years in this state. Where have our senators been? There is no excuse for the closure of a hospital that serves a rural community in the middle of a pandemic. No excuse. Because every single Georgian deserves access to the best health care in the world. And it shouldn't matter how much money we have or where we live, because we're Americans and we deserve the best health care in the world, because health care is a human right. But see, we face a terrible corruption in this country right now. Insurance companies and drug companies have been writing the rules in Washington so that working Georgians are ripped off every day at the pharmacy. Insurance companies finding every excuse to deny our claims, sending us surprise bills 6 months after a hospital visit. It doesn't have to be this way because health care is a human right. So Valdosta, if you send me and Reverend WarNock to the Senate, we will deliver the resources to reopen those 9 rural hospitals and to open 10 more. We will build clinics to serve every community across the state. We'll stand up to the insurance and drug companies to make health care affordable for every Georgian, because health care is a human right. Health, jobs, and justice for all the people. You really laid on the horn there. Health health, jobs, and justice for all the people, Valdosta. Let's talk about jobs. It's been 8 months. 8 months since our United States Senate passed relief for an American people suffering so badly through no fault of their own during this pandemic. Small businesses here in Lowndes County and across the country operating at 20 or 30% capacity. Millions of people losing their jobs. Families with credit cards maxed out. Can't afford the rent and the prescriptions and the car payment and college for the kids. Where is the United States Senate at a moment of crisis like this? We deserve better, Valdosta. And our two senators who have been treating their Senate offices like their E-Trade accounts have been blocking direct stimulus relief for the people who pay their salaries. That's not right. There were senators in both political parties today who gave speeches in Washington about the urgency of sending another round of $1,200 stimulus checks directly to the people. Senators in both parties. You know who wasn't speaking on the floor of the U.S. Senate on our behalf? David and Kelly are nowhere to be found. David and Kelly need to stand up for $1,200 checks to go to the people of Georgia right now because we're hurting and we need help. They need to send relief to our small businesses right now. No more excuses. No more waiting. Even at a moment like this, they're trying to bid it down. Y'all ever notice that there's always money for giveaways for wealthy donors? There's always money for bailouts for investment banks. There's always money for war. But then when it comes time to expand the Pell Grant program so that every Georgian can afford a 4-year college degree at a public college or an HBCU without debt, or when it comes time to build hospitals and clinics, suddenly David Perdue says the country is broke. We deserve better, Georgia. And we have the opportunity now to pass the most ambitious infrastructure, jobs, and clean energy program in American history. We can upgrade our public schools. We can expand broadband internet and cell access to every community in this state. We can build those health clinics. We can upgrade transit and transportation so that we can get around our communities and farmers can get their harvest to market. We can make America the #1 producer of clean energy in the world, and Georgia the #1 producer of clean energy in the American South. We can create tens of thousands of jobs while we save our planet. We have the power to make that happen. I want y'all to believe in what's possible. I want y'all to feel hope again. And most of all, I want us all to work these next 3 weeks to get out the vote so that we win and we can deliver for the people of this state. Health, jobs, and justice for all the people. It's really not that complicated, what we need. Affordable housing, affordable health care, education without debt, dignified work that pays a living wage, equal justice under the law. It's not that complicated. We can raise the minimum wage to $15 so that working people in this state who do an honest week's work can not just survive but thrive. Georgia, we have the power to do that. But look, here's the truth. If Mitch McConnell holds the Senate, you know what they're going to do. They will try to do to Joe and Kamala exactly what they tried to do to President Obama. They will block the COVID relief that we need. They will block the investment in infrastructure and jobs and clean energy that we need. They will block the $15 minimum wage. They will block civil rights and voting rights. We can't let that happen, Valdosta, because we have too much good work to do for the people. And we have the power. We have the power to ensure that this work gets done. Health, jobs, and justice. Let's talk about justice, Lowndes County. See, my mother came to this country as an immigrant when she was 23 years old, alone as a young woman. That takes courage. She came here because she believed in the ideas that this country represents. The ideas that generations of Americans have fought for. And let's take a moment now, Valdosta, to recognize and honor the veterans and military families who are here with us today. Thank you for your sacrifices. Thank you for what you've done for our country. Thank you. My mother came here because she believed in America. Let's be very clear, that doesn't mean that she believed in some fantasy about our past. That doesn't mean that she didn't recognize how much further our country had to go. What she believed was that this was a country on a journey of progress, a journey toward full realization of our founding ideals of equality in God's eyes and equality under the law. That's the idea that's drawn millions of immigrants to our shores. That's the America that we believe in, Valdosta. The 14th Amendment of our Constitution already guarantees equal protection under the law, but that is not the reality in America today. When Ahmaud Arbery is shot to death in broad daylight in the street on camera in Glenn County, Georgia, and the local authorities look the other way because he's a young black man, that makes a mockery of equal protection under the law. And Valdosta, we have the power to pass a new Civil Rights Act to secure equal justice for all Americans, regardless of race and regardless of class. We have the power to pass a new Voting Rights Act to secure the sacred franchise for all people and end voter suppression. We have the power to do that. When John Lewis and Hosea Williams and Amelia Boynton led hundreds across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama in 1965 into billy clubs and dogs and fire hoses, their courage, their sacrifice, the sacrifices of those who bled and died for civil rights and for the franchise, paved the way for passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The next 2 years can be the most productive for civil rights and voting rights legislation since 1964 and 1965. And then we will look back on the peaceful mobilization after the murders of Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd as our generation's march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, as our generation's civil rights movement to secure equal justice for all people. Because all people deserve health and jobs and justice. We have the power to make all of this happen, Georgia. The whole country is watching us to see what we'll do right now. I appreciate you. The whole country is watching to see what we'll do right now. So let's be motivated by love for each other, by compassion and decency and kindness and a commitment to human rights. Let's turn the page on these 4 years of fear-mongering and hatred and division. Let's show the country what Georgia stands for. Georgia stands for health and jobs and justice for all the people. So Valdosta, are you ready to work? Are you ready to vote? And mobilize and knock on doors and make phone calls like you've never done it before to make history, to elect 2 new United States senators to represent us in Washington. We have the power to do this. I want to recognize some people who serve your community and have brought us together today. First of all, once again, join me in honoring Daniel Blackman, your next Public Service Commissioner. I want to thank Rabbi Moshe. I want to thank Reverend Bruce Francis. Give it up for the Rabbi and Reverend. Young of the United Farm Workers. And I want to thank all of those who work in the fields in this state to keep us fed in some of the most brutal conditions of labor on earth. I want to thank Vivian Miller-Cody, City Councilman and County Democratic Chair. Where's Vivian? Thank you, Vivian. I want to thank Dr. Treva Gear, an Army veteran, educator, candidate for State Senate. And Valdosta, most of all, I want to thank you for your love and your energy and your passion. Now, these next 3 weeks, let's leave it all on the field, Valdosta. No regrets. It's time to win. Thank you so much. I love you, and have a great night. Thank you.
YouTube, Boston, G.B.R. We report whatever we know. For more of my videos, go to Boston, G.B.R. Also, check out my book. Let's stop talking about God bless and let's be a blessing ourselves to our own brothers and sisters and kings. Let me How you doing today, brother? Good. I want to say goodbye to you. All right, brother. How you doing today? Oh, hey, gotta bring it down a little bit. I've been with this brother here a long time. What's your name? Limlock. We follow each other, huh? Yes. Oh! Have a good day, my brother. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. All right, bro, man. How you doing? Good.